Okay, now remember this is just speculation, and if we're going rigorously hard and viewing each one of these books independently, and we're not looking at the history of how the church used them, uh, and this is more towards the Judaizer 2000, and some have seen this besides me, independently of me, have seen this, and this is why I kind of hesitate to bring this up. But since the Judaizer 2000 does not like the Apocalypse of John, um, it's not a Johannine piece of literature, obviously. It's not of the same guy that wrote John or the three epistles of John. Um, and it doesn't seem to be in line with Paul. In fact, many see this as anti-Pauline writing, just as many of the scholars who granted they're not, they're post-Christian, ex-Christian, atheists, or whatever, however you want to phrase that, but have studied the New Testament for decades upon decades upon decades. Um, just like how they see, okay, you have the pastoral epistles of Paul, which they never recognize as being written by Paul, and they see Paul and Thecla, and these are two um, later communities, how they interpreted Paul, um, basically bashing each other in the head, which was, were the pastoral epistles written to counter Paul and Thecla, or was Paul and Thecla written to counter the pastoral epistles? You know, these, there were two different interpretations of Paul. Were the pastorals Judaized and trying to put a cap on Paul, or were they not Judaized works, but just trying to put a, you know, there's a lot of passion in Paul, and he may have been a manic depressant. To me, he wasn't a saint. Um, but just trying to, whoa, we know what he taught. We're from his community. This is, temper this. Keep them off the deep end. We've already seen them write things like Paul and Thecla or other stuff, because Paul and Thecla might be much later. But the tradition, we know Thecla was a real person. Um, we just don't take that work too seriously, just like the Protevangelium. It may have many good things in it, but it's somebody obviously listening to the hymn and the liturgy and saying, there's not a book out about this. Let's, any, pen, kind of thing. But so the Apocalypse of John is very strange, and you can see it as anti-Pauline. And this is pure speculation, right? And I'll take all the heat because I came to find this on my own, or came to, I had this wild idea on my own, but then I started hearing scholars talk about this, and I'm like I kind of want them to shut up about it. Okay, so you have God or Jesus, it's, talking to the seven churches, right? The letters of the seven churches are kind of strange at the beginning of this apocalypse. Were these originally part of the apocalypse, or were they tacked on later, or were these first and then the apocalypse was tacked on, or were they two separate works put together, or was it just one whole thing? Was it written just as in its entirety? Um, Message to Ephesus. It's chapter 2. To the angel of the church of Ephesus write, the one who holds the seven stars in his right hand, the one who walks among the seven golden lampstands, says this: I know your deeds, and your toil, and perseverance, or it could mean steadfastness, and that you cannot tolerate evil men, and you put to the test those who call themselves apostles and are not, and you found them to be false. Now Ephesians is, most scholars don't consider Ephesians an authentic Pauline work, and was that written in reaction to this? Because the well, didn't write it, and the East did not it did not like. I mean, the Apocalypse of John was popular in the West, but it was not in the East. You have people in the West in the Latin Church quoting it, but in the East, people don't seem to like it, and it's in this exact area that they don't like it. And this is the exact area Paul traveled in. He's calling himself an apostle, but is he an apostle? Not one of the 12, but apparently, if in his writing, God made him an apostle straight away, so he didn't need authority from the 12. Now, I'm not saying this is exactly what happened, but you could read the Bible in this way and say, yeah, he kind of brags of, I didn't get my teaching from anybody, I got it directly from Christ. So one who's calling himself an apostle, who's not an apostle. And then in verse 2 it says, and you have perseverance against steadfastness, have endured for my name's sake, and have not grown weary. And I highlighted these important parts that kind of touch on this fact. But I have this against you. You have left your first love. What's the first love? It's Judaism. It's the law of Moses. Therefore, remember where you have fallen, and repent, and do the deeds you did at first. Do the deeds you did at first. The deeds? It kind of doesn't sound very Pauline to me. Let's see, 5:1. We have the first deeds, it actually says. Again, first deeds, aren't these works of the law? Or else I am coming, and I will remove the lampstand out of your place, unless you repent. Paul, in some of his epistles, it seems like you can't really lose your salvation through just, sinning, self. It's more like apostasy, or these grievous sins, or these 11 abominations that he lists. So, anyways, yet this you do have. You hate the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. Nicolaitans, not many people. Do we really know who they are conclusively? Probably a semi-Gnostic group. Probably something like Cerinthianism. Oh yeah, the Judaizers of 2000 didn't know who Cerinthus was, which is quite shocking for somebody who has their own webpage about Jesus in the New Testament. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. And churches is the assembly, it's ecclesia, it's the same thing as the assembly at the base of Mount Sinai. To him who overcomes, again, this is people persevering, doing the deeds, right? I will grant you to eat of the tree of life which is in the paradise of God. Where else is this in the New Testament? This sounds very, very Jewish. This is a very Jewish, very, very Jewish thing. This is not even almost like a transfigured body. It's more like just a straight up, almost revived body. Like, you put the crash cart on, and then you eat from the tree of life, and then that's how you're immortal forever. That's why some people say these were Judaized. These were anti-Pauline Judaized letters that were tacked on to the front of this vision, because it kind of doesn't flow together really. It's kind of commentary on that, and well, we can get into that later. But this is I just want to show you why I kind of saw, hey, somebody could speculate there, and then when I heard others talking about it, I'm like, well, I just saw it as speculation. So maybe I can inoculate you guys against this if you come across it in scholarly circles. Chapter 9. I know your tribulation and your poverty, but you are rich. And that's in parentheses. And blasphemed by those who say that they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Do not fear what you are about to suffer. Behold, the devil is about to cast some of you into prison. You say they are Jews, they're not. In the early times, again, I say this is written very early. Distinction between Jew and Christian was not made. So these are proselytes coming, and this could be the Judaizers are minute. The Talmud has them recorded as minute, as people going to the synagogue, but that are kind of halfway between a Christian and a Jew. So this could be talking about the Jews that didn't accept Jesus yet, the Jews that were going to the synagogues that weren't following the right way. And this is important. It says, I know your tribulation and your poverty. What does Ebionite mean? The poor ones. So you will be tested, and you will have tribulation for 10 days. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life. 9b or 10. Prove yourself faithful. And then you go on to 14. Because I have a few things. It's a Pergamum. My faith, even in the days of Antipas, my witness. Antipas, wait a minute. My faithful one, who was killed among you, where Satan dwells. And didn't. I know where you dwell, where Satan's throne is, and you hold fast to my name, and did not deny my faith, even in the days of Antipas, my witness, my faithful one, who was killed among. Wait, wasn't Paul persecuting and killing people for a long time as a Roman agent, calling himself the most learned among Pharisees, the most advanced in the knowledge of the Pharisees, right? And this one writing these 7 letters or whatever is railing against, he says, but I have a few things against you, because some of you hold the teaching of Balaam, to keep Balak, to put some stumbling block before the sons of Israel. You eat things sacrificed to idols and commit acts of immorality. I'm all things to all men. All things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial. And yeah, don't even sacrifice to idols, but only if it would make, you can, obviously it doesn't matter, but if it makes your brother stumble, then don't eat it. Again, it sounds like he's preaching against Paul in the same area where Paul was preaching. Therefore repent, or else I am coming. And I'm gonna push this to part 2, because there's a lot more in here that can be seen as very anti-Pauline, and it's talking in the same areas where Paul was preaching. Alright, so go to part 2.